Karen, we've had lots of psychics on the show.
Yes, we have.
Yeah. And we've also had lots of mediums on the show.
That's true.
We've even had a psychic medium or two on the show.
3 for 3, baby.
we're doing pretty good. So, all of them, all of the psychic mediums we've had on, all have one thing in common. It's pretty obvious, right?
Sure.
Yeah, they all communicate with people or things from the other side.
Yep.
Right. Well, our next guest does the same thing, but there's a twist.
What's that?
She helps people communicate with the souls of their babies. Now, whether it's preconception, during pregnancy, or even in the tragic event of a loss, she allows us to connect with the dear souls of our unborn children.
I already have questions.
That's good, because we're here to ask her all the questions. My name is Will.
And I'm Karen.
And unlike Mulder and Scully,
we both want to believe.
So we've embarked on a journey of discovery.
We've talked to people deeply entrenched in the spiritual and metaphysical world.
We've thrown ourselves into weird and wonderful experiences. I even joined a coven of witches.
And wait, you joined a coven?
Yep, all in the interest of finding something.
Anything.
That will prove that there's something beyond this physical,
three-dimensional world we all live in.
This is the Skeptic Metaphysicians. Hi there. Thanks so much for coming back to another episode of the Skeptic Metaphysicians. I'm Will.
And I'm Karen.
We're the hosts of this journey of discovery. And today we've got a special treat for you. Dr. Maria Rothenberger is a professional counselor, fertility coach, and spirit baby communicator. Now, she came out as a psychic medium in 2020 and is the author of the #1 best-selling book, Transcending Infertility: 9 Keys for Improving Fertility, Creating Miracles, and Being a Better Human Being. And she's here today to help us wrap our heads around the concept of communicating with spirit babies. We are so thrilled to have you on the show, Dr. Maria. Thanks for coming on.
Heck yeah. Thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate this.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Karen, I just want to give you the opportunity because you said you already had so many questions.
Well, my first question, and I'm like, what are you putting the cart before the horse? Or I don't even know. Like, I'm probably asking a question that you're going to address later, but I need to know now.
Totally.
So babies can't speak, right?
No.
When they're born, it takes a while. So how do you communicate with a baby spirit?
Did you not see Boss Baby? Come on.
I know.
I know.
That's the answer right there. Done.
Yeah. Hello.
Well, just like all psychic mediums, which you've probably, spoken a lot about with others, is it's telepathic communication and a clair. So we have clairvoyance, clairaudience, claircognizance, all that good stuff. So there don't have to be words, but also, just to throw another little twist in there, sometimes spirit babies show as full-grown adults. They'll show as a past life. They'll show as what they hope their future life will look like. So it all doesn't matter. It's a lot of telepathy, a lot of clairvoyance, a lot of claircognizance. Yeah,
Okay,
just
so
like
then
working with other spirits. Yep.
There comes my question then. So then if they present themselves as full-grown adults sometimes, how can you call them spirit babies? How is that? How can you make that distinction?
Very good question. Because these are souls. I know. Excellent question, Will.
Well, of course.
Are
It's
you
my
still-
question.
Are you finished patting yourself on the back?
Not yet. Give me a minute.
Okay.
You're
Please
so
hold.
amazing. They're called spirit babies because they are in. This is interesting. There's a couple answers that I would give to this. They're in a different realm than I would say for other souls. They are sort of in a waiting, like a holding area of their side. Yeah. They're waiting to be born again. And at times they present as full-grown adults because it's usually, in my personal experience, now other spirit baby mediums might be different, but in my personal experience, it's because they are attaching to a past life. They're looking as they did in a past life. And that usually is significant for the person that I'm working with because they likely had the past life with this person that I'm working with. So that's how I call them spirit babies, is because they're still souls that are looking to be born again into this present life.
So do you see them?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. I'm clairvoyant. So I have other clairs too, but that's my strongest clairvoyant. So I see pictures, images, movies, symbols they'll show me. So yeah, I see things.
And you can communicate with babies that are in, like, about to be born. So then if the mom's like, oh, what does the baby look like? And you're like, well, about 78, kind of balding, I mean, what can she expect?
Really good question too. You have wonderful questions. What can she expect? I need to ask the baby first. How are you presenting? Are you presenting to me as a past life, a future life, not in this present life? Are you presenting to me as you would look as an adult in this present life? So I need to ask the baby. Usually, in my experience, 99% of the time, it's a past life. So what will usually happen, and this has happened too, that a baby will show up as an infant or a toddler, and then they literally, in my mind's eye, point to another soul, like an ancestor or somebody in the background, and they connect themselves to that soul. So they look both like their previous life, and over here, they look like the baby. So it's a conversation with the baby. I ask, I don't have any of the answers. I'm getting all the information from the baby. And so I ask if the intended parent is like, what should I expect? Will I be giving birth to an adult? No, obviously not. But if the intended parent is curious about that, I just ask the baby and we go from there.
I want to back it up just a minute because I've never heard of this before. Like I've never heard of communicating with spirit babies. The fact that these babies are in a different holding area, for example, getting ready to be born, is a different thought process than anything we've ever dove into before. Mm-hmm. But let's take it back because what intrigues me the most about it is what made you decide, or how did you make the connection to connect with spirit babies as opposed to just regular psychic medium stuff? Like what happened in your life that something in the universe said, you know what, I'm going to connect you with all the unborn children in the world?
Well, yes. Well, first I'm going to say it was not a fucking decision, okay? It was
Fair
not
point.
a decision.
Fair point, yeah.
I am not someone who was a kid seeing dead people or talking to spirits or anything like that. I was not that. I definitely was a highly sensitive person, which is another show maybe, but I was never into like seeing spirits or anything like that. So when this happened to me, I'll explain what happened first, and then I'll go from there. So, about 8 years ago now, 8 or 9 years ago, I was a therapist. Still, I'm a therapist, and I specialize in fertility issues. I was working with a person who had lost her twins in like late term pregnancy. And I was doing normal clinical grief work with her, and we're in the middle of a session. And I still remember it. I can see everything, the colors, how they showed up. I can see everything. Her twins showed up in my awareness. And now they're talking to me, and they always show up on my left side, talking, especially one of them. And I'm still attempting to communicate with their mother through her grief. They're all excited and happy. And then she's like broken. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, kind of bewildered what's going on. I thought I was kind of going psychotic or something. I really didn't know, from a clinical perspective. I'm like, am I experiencing, is this psychosis? I don't know. This is okay. So I just continued my work with her as best I could. And I chalked it up to I'm overstressed, or I don't know what this is. I need to go take care of myself. So I'm driving home and I had a podcast on and for whatever reason, you know how they say soul spirits can mess with electronics. Well, They kept moving and they were telling me they were going to do this. All right, you're not going to freaking listen to us. We're going to prove that we're here. And they were messing with, it was like an iPod back then or whatever, music MP3 player. They were messing it back and forth, changing. And then they landed on a podcast where the host said, "Get over yourself." I went, "Are you kidding me? This is nuts." I'm like, I really am. I think I'm going crazy right now. What is going on? I had a pretty long commute at the time. It was a 50-minute commute, and the whole ride home, they're bugging me. So I didn't have another appointment with this person for like 2 or 3 weeks. And that entire time, these babies were in my awareness. They were in my dreams. They were moving shit in my house. They were messing with my electronics, constantly showing me that they were freaking there.
Mhm.
And I didn't know
No.
what to do with this.
They were there.
I
Oh.
didn't know it. Yeah, I didn't know what to do with what was going on. I really didn't. I was telling my husband, and he's like, okay. He's weirded out just as much as I am, frankly. And what ended up happening was when I saw this client again, I decided to tell her what was happening. So this is not a typical clinical thing. So what I said to her was, hey, how open are you? Because these babies are still talking to me. You have to tell her, you have to tell her, you have to tell her. And she's like, I'm pretty open. Like, what are you talking about? And I said, okay, officially, I'm ending the therapy session right now. If you want to continue therapy in a minute or in a bit after I tell you what's going on, I will completely do that. I will extend your time here. But I have to say what's going on because they won't leave me alone. And she's like, what?
They?
They?
Who have I gotten involved with?
Yeah. So I start telling her what's happening. And I was able to describe them, what they look like, why her loss happened the way that it did. And, she's listening and she's, kind and things. And then I started saying, all right, look, they're telling me that they're ringing your doorbell in the middle of the night. Is that happening? She's like, oh, shit. Like, yeah, they're telling me that they knocked pictures off the wall. Did that happen? Oh, shit. Like, they're telling me about a memorial that you created for them in what was supposed to be a nursery. There's teddy bears on a wall on a shelf. She's like, oh my God. Okay, do you believe this is happening now? She's like, yeah.
Wow.
I have
Yep.
goosebumps all up and down my arms.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. And I have to say, really hard to believe, right? From a pragmatic point
Totally.
of view. So
Totally.
like what made you move on? Like I would have said, okay, I think it's might be time to get the white coats on or something.
Yeah,
Like
seriously.
you persevered though.
Well, in that particular instance, I was like, I've never experienced this before. I have no idea what this is. I don't know what's going on. And then we ended up continuing a couple of times. She invited her husband. We processed through that. And then they were good. They were like, okay. They felt, in my opinion, I don't know that I could have done better work clinically. I don't know that I could have. But I have to be honest, it freaked me out. And so I did not do anything like that for years. I came out in 2020. That happened like 7 years prior.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't do anything with it. I was curious about it, right? This is why I wanted to connect with you guys, because I consider myself a healthy skeptic, right? I'm not buying everything that people are selling, but I'm also not shutting it out completely. I'm curious. I want to know what, evidence you have or whatever.
Mhm.
So I began to research and I began to look at this and I began to talk to people whom I believe are actual mediums, really, really skillful. And I'm like, what? WTF? What happened? Why did that happen? And the one person that really resonated with me was like, look, she said, what have you been doing different in your life? Now, I had prior to that experienced, this is why I wrote my book, very, very traumatic fertility issue experience. It was like 6.5 years of hell. And in order to move through that, I began meditating. And she was like, that's it. She said, this meditation that has opened up your connection to other planes. Now, okay, that makes sense to me. She's like, there's also a genetic component. I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. So I went home, told my parents, who are actually divorced. They were divorced when I was like 3. I told them both separately. And they're like, oh yeah, it's in both of our families. That's a
Put a
thing.
heads up, mom and dad.
That would have been nice to know.
Yeah.
So those two things combined with this meditation practice, this stillness, this just connection to other realms, I believe is what created this skill, this ability to manifest. But I still didn't touch it. I did not feel competent. I did not feel like I wanted to go anywhere near this kind of work. And I just continued to research, and I actually did a few trainings. And in one training, I was training with Lisa Williams. She's a pretty famous psychic medium. And we were doing some group work there. And one of the mediums there in my particular group just randomly turned to me. He's like, "Look, your grandmother's here. She said you're going to be doing this work." And I'm like, "No, I'm not." And she's like, he started acting like her. My grandmother is like 4'10". She's like, "You don't mess with my grandmother." And he started behaving like her, talking like she would, saying, you're going to be doing this work. Honestly, that's what made me go, okay, I will start looking more into this. It took me a couple of more years because I was still very much into clinical work. I like evidence-based treatment. I like looking at things that actually work from a scientific perspective. But once I realized and looked back at that experience with that couple and the loss of their twins, I realized, I think that this could actually be healing. I can't call it healing legally, but I think it could be quite healing for people. And so then I went into specific spirit baby training.
Oh, that's a great story.
So you said that, you had this experience with the twins and you didn't expect it. You didn't, open yourself up to it. It just happened. But then you
Yes.
waited for 7 years to really get into it again. So during that 7 years, were you being bombarded with other spirit babies and just not acknowledging them? Or did you close yourself down? Like what happened in that interim time?
Yeah, that was 7 years of I don't know how to handle this, and spirits coming in all the time, not just babies.
Wow.
Not just babies. In fact, there was one day that my husband came home from work and I was like, "Hey, babe, your mom just came in and said, yes, that was her in the truck when you were talking to her." And he went, "Oh my," and he just started like
Oh my goodness.
getting upset. Like, "Oh my, yeah, I was talking to her." And they would just pop in and it was exhausting, frankly. I didn't know how to have boundaries. I didn't know how to shut it off. I didn't know how to tell them shop's closed. That's my phrase now. So yeah, 7 years of souls coming in all the time, particularly when I had a glass or two of wine. I'm just gonna be
Right.
honest with you.
We're coming in.
So you help people with speaking to their unborn children. Now, there's a difference between the people, those babies that are not yet born, and those that have prematurely passed.
Yes.
When you talk to someone about their babies prior to them being born, I assume the messaging is very different from the ones that you're talking to when you're trying to ease their pain at the prospect of their loss. What kind of messaging does a baby try to get you to give to their parents if it hasn't been born yet?
Actually, it's not too different. When I'm working with somebody who's had a loss, my goal isn't to ease pain. My goal is to offer truth, what's coming through the other side. As a clinician, I'm attempting to help them ease their own pain, right? It's never my job to ease their pain. It's my job to help them do the work for themselves. But as a spirit baby medium, neither. I'm not trying to ease their pain. I'm trying to offer them truth, what's coming through from the other side. So what might be the messaging that might be different is this is why this had to happen. This is why this happened. And it's honestly, it's various reasons. Some babies say there was a genetic anomaly that didn't fit my life plan. Other babies say this had to happen for your spiritual growth. Usually, I mean, gosh, I can't even think of one instance where it was the parents' like fault, like they did anything wrong. There's usually an absolute reason. So therein lies the comfort, right? So it's not my job to ease their pain or to give them comfort. It's my job to say, this is what baby's saying, why this had to happen. And that in and of itself provides comfort, if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah, it does. It makes sense. So how long, sorry, Karen.
No, that's good.
How long specifically after a baby has passed might they still be in contact?
Babies are always around. They're generally speaking, a spirit baby is around even before they're conceived. They're around during pregnancy, they aren't even in the body fully until like in my experience, last couple months of pregnancy, just because they need to experience being in that confined space. But after loss, they're always around. They're just, yeah, they can
So
be called upon
forever. They're just so if someone lost a baby 20 years ago, they could still be around.
Is it possible then that so there was some sort of health issue and the baby didn't survive, but the woman gets pregnant again? Could it be that same baby spirit?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll go back to what I was going to say, and then I want to address that too, because they show up differently in my awareness. So yes, they can be around 20 years later. Now here's where we get really into the world of the weird, okay? Because from my experience, souls can incarnate, but still most of their soul is on the other side. So we are incarnated in a body, but most of our self is on the other side. I know this is so whacked, but this is my experience too from like working with spirit babies.
Well, you foresaw my next question after that. 'Cause that's gonna be, how is it possible? But okay.
Well, right. No, it's a logical question, right? But how is that possible? It's because most of us is still on the other side. So how they show up differently for me, and every baby's, all souls really on the other side, they know our symbols, they know what makes sense to us, so they'll send us imagery or use words or telepathy that makes sense to us. Sometimes once in a while I'll get a symbol that I'm like, I don't know what the fuck that means. What does this mean to you, mother or father? Because I don't know what this means. But so how they show up for me is, if they are a soul that has not attempted to be born, they'll show up as a human, like a human figure. Sometimes they'll show up as like a pixie or something like that, but they're humanoid, okay? But if they are a soul that has attempted to incarnate before, they'll often show up as balls of light, just a ball of light with the soul inside. So if they've incarnated or tried to incarnate before and they're trying to come back again, they'll show up as the ball of light with the soul, with the person inside. If they are not going to come through again, they just show as a ball of light. That's not perfect. Sometimes it's different. Sometimes I'll have a baby that does not have that ball of light around them, but they say, I've tried to be born before. So it's not 100%, but most of the time that's my instant symbol for that.
It's touching all kinds of stuff with us here, but I interrupted you before, so I know you had another question, Karen.
Well, I mean, how controversial can we get?
Oh God, please ask anything. Yes.
Okay, so then do you get a different kind of maybe emotional feel from a spirit baby where the pregnancy was terminated?
No.
Like, do they linger around? Do they go? Are they
Yes.
mad?
No. I talk to a lot of people who have terminated pregnancies, and a lot of folks have a lot of guilt around it. Babies, they just see perfection in us. They see perfection in all the choices that we make. They acknowledge that they have a choice, you have a choice, you have a choice, you have a choice. Everybody has a choice. And it's not good, bad, nothing. It's just how it is. And so when babies come through from a termination, they often will say, oh, I just love you. I just love you. There's nothing, you're just beautiful to me. It's completely fine. Sometimes they'll say, I'm great. On the other side, I'm planning to join another family. Sometimes they'll say, hey, can I come through now? It all varies, but there's never, just in my experience, never
A
anger.
lot of people would need to hear that, I would think.
A lot of people need to hear that.
A lot of people need to hear that.
Yes.
So they can go. So if, for whatever reason, terminated or miscarriage or whatever, a baby isn't born, it can go off to be with another family.
Absolutely. Uh-huh.
Oh,
Yeah. Or they
cool.
stay. I have a spirit baby on the other side who wants to be born, and I'm like, no, I'm done. And she's there now helping out. Sometimes a spirit baby they have personalities like we all do, right? And sometimes they're like reticent to talk to me. Like I did have a spirit baby once who presented as a full-grown adult, and he was very military. Like he stood upright and he was very serious, and he's like, who are you, young lady? What do I need to talk to you? And so I invited my spirit baby in to connect with him and create a softness around it or an ease around it. And he softened a little bit, never totally casual, but she helps me. She helps me out. And I've asked her if she wants to be born still. Yes, I want to be born still. And I say, it's okay to go to another family. She's like, yes, I will, but I'm not ready. And even if she does, the most of her soul will still be on the other side and she can still aid.
All right. So
I know.
you sound like so like matter of factly, right? It's just like, yeah, then I put them together, and that's what I mean, it's like okay. Like I really, this sounds amazing, and the messages you're getting across sounds amazing, and exactly what people need to hear, and all that kind of stuff. But I wish, and I know the answer is there is no way, right? I wish there was a way that I could really feel that what you're saying isn't just what you deep inside feel someone needs to hear, as opposed to actually someone coming to you and saying, I know, Karen, what you're going to say.
Fell off
I
the
know,
wall.
I knew you're going to do that. I know you're going to say that.
The teddy bear altar.
I get, and that's why that disconnect is. That's why that like you have confirmed by someone else saying, yes, indeed, this happened. Yes, indeed, that happened. So there's confirmation there, right? But it just goes so far beyond that. You did get confirmation there. And some people, some cynics, and I'm not one of them, but some cynics might say, oh, you got lucky, right? You got lucky.
Totally. Friggin'
Right.
A, I would say that.
Right.
I would say that. How
Yeah.
the fuck is this happening? Honestly, sometimes I'll get off a session with somebody and be like, I don't even know how that freaking happened. I don't know how that happened. I really don't. I don't know how that happened. Still now, 2 years later, after professionally doing this work, I don't understand. Also, Will, I should say, sometimes I don't say what the person wants to hear because I'm telling them what the baby's saying. So, for example, I did a reading for somebody, I don't know how long ago, sometime last year, and things change, right? Things change in the world of possibility. And she asked for another reading. She wanted to know her baby was there and was he still coming? And the answer was no. The answer was no, he wasn't coming. And again, it's not that I'm trying to assuage folks' feelings or, I'm not being their therapist. I'm just saying what's coming through. And I can give more information, like why, what's the change, what's happened that he's now not coming, and what are the choices here, what are the opportunities. And so there are times when I don't say what the person wants to hear because it's not what's coming through.
In a situation like that where, that baby's not coming, could a different baby come?
Yes, ma'am. Yep. In fact, in that reading, I said there is space for another, actually a female baby if you would like. But yeah, it depends on the person, right? Because fertility issues are exhausting. Yeah. They're just exhausting. And this is why I'm like, I'm done, man. I'm done. I have my two. My husband's like, oh, little girl. No. 2 boys. Good. I'm good. But it depends on the person, right? And so again, here's where we all have choice. We all have choice. There's babies all the time looking for families, but we get to say no and we get to say yes if we want.
Right. So this country, sad to say, is the most litigious country in the world. Have you ever worried about liability? You say something to someone and they just come back to you with, you ruined my life and I'm going to see you in court. Has that ever crossed your mind?
It hasn't, only because I'm very clear about what I'm doing. And, there are all those legal, things that you need to put on paperwork and shit like that, right? This is for entertainment purposes only, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And I'm very clear. This is not a healing. So I have to say things like that in order to be clear, and that's the thing. I only want to offer clarity. There's nothing in there for me to gain other than to be helpful to somebody. And I have to be clear around entertainment purposes only. This is not a healing mechanism, blah, 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 blah. Also, some people will say, well, can you be my therapist? Nope. Sorry. That's a dual relationship. That's, right. So, but here are resources, right? Here's a resource for a therapist, So I'm really clear. About what I do and how it's different from actual healing, evidence-based things.
And which is more personally satisfying for you? Spirit
baby work has become that. Yeah. Short answer.
I like that though. It means I mean, there's no thought. Like, absolutely, this is it.
Yeah. I mean, therapy is still satisfying in a way. You know what's okay? I'm going to be totally honest here. It feels like therapy now feels like what, those dreams where you're like trying to run through mud or
Yes.
water.
I hate those dreams.
I know. And spirit baby work feels like flying. It feels like it's so much easier and like it gets to the point, it gets to the heart of the matter, done, moving on, as opposed to years and years of like psychoanalysis. And I don't do that, but you know what I mean? It feels just efficient. And I'm a Taurus. I like efficiency and practicality.
Now, you also have a podcast, and it's called Miracles Happen Fertility Podcast, where you talk about a lot of these things. And in preparation for our conversation, I did happen to listen to a few of them, and I went through your website and
Great.
saw the titles to a lot of them. And you do a lot of things outside of just channeling spirit babies, right? You help with guided meditations. You help with, I see something about past life regression in hypnosis. You talk about out of body travel to connect with baby spirits and things like that. So there's just a lot behind this. It's not just, hey, I'm clairvoyant, I'm seeing your baby, he's saying or she's saying this, right?
Right.
What draws you the most? Because those are all very different modalities, right?
Oh, they sure are. They sure are. And I think it's because I have my dad's side of the family are all engineers, right? They're all left brain, like 1 + 1 = 2. Mom's side of the family is quite artistic. And I think I have a nice melding of the two. So on my podcast, I talk a lot about that evidence-based psychotherapeutic stuff. Here are practical skills that you can use every day to feel better through this process. And I pull in other spiritual things. When I talk about out-of-body experiences, things like that, those are things that I'm opening up one's possibilities to. Like, hey, look at this. This might resonate with you. Past life therapy, to me, is a bridge. It's like a bridge between evidence-based psychotherapy and the spiritual world. I do past life regression, not therapeutically, but past life regression therapy is a thing. And it's absolutely evidence-based, provides.
We all read Many Lives, Many Masters and
Yes.
all that kind of stuff. So
that's who I was trained by. Dr. Brian Weiss.
No
yes.
kidding.
Wow.
That's outstanding.
Yes.
That's
He's
incredible.
amazing. Yeah.
So then let's talk a little bit about that past life regression thing. When it comes to the spirit babies thing, how does past life regression connect with spirit babies?
Gosh, there's so many. Okay, I'm going to try to keep this short.
Yeah, we still have a couple minutes.
All right, so there are myriad ways that past lives come in. Probably one of the biggest ones that folks come to see me in terms of past lives is because there's some kind of block or something that is stopping or preventing pregnancy or carrying to term. And so we will go into a past life regression to see if we can clear said block.
Sorry to interrupt you, but blockages that there seems to be a blockage towards fertility issues. Is that right?
Yes.
That's what you're talking about. So there's a past life something that's preventing someone from being fertile and birthing a child.
Yes.
And you can clear that.
We can help clear that. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. It's amazing, actually. Oh my gosh.
It's astounding. It's mind blowing.
Oh my God.
The repercussions or the implications behind that is astounding. And it makes someone think, like, why is this not more mainstream? Like, literally, doctor, you are the first person I've heard talk about this at all.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. Oh
No.
gosh. No. Yeah. There's past life regression is.
I'm sorry, not past life regression, but spirit babies, right? And connecting past lives in order to remove blockages towards gaining fertility. Things like this, not things I think about. No.
Yeah. Well, so past life regression has been talked about a lot around how physical healing occurs, how emotional healing occurs, how psychiatric healing occurs. So that's been talked about a lot. And fertility is just another physical anomaly, right? It's just a physical issue. And so
you don't think of it that way, right? Fertility.
I do.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase.
The average Joe.
we don't think of it that way. You certainly do, and it makes sense. It is just a physiological challenges someone's having that could potentially be resolved through a past life crisis.
Can you give us an example of a situation where it's helped?
Yeah, sure.
I'm so curious.
Sure. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I did a past life regression once with somebody who she was a male in a former life and passed away through a stab wound to the gut. And now here's something that's a little bit different with the way that I work with people is that I happen to be clairvoyant, right? So I can see things that are potentially things to look at. When we looked at her gut, you could see there was an anomaly in her uterus that could have been related to this past life tragic way of dying. And so I was telling her there's something on the uterus that is preventing the uterus from expanding during pregnancy. Well, she goes and confirms there's a fibroid that is on her uterus. The doctor did not believe it was an issue though. So they're moving forward, which is great. So that's just one that pops into my head where there could be a possible anomaly due to a past experience. Yeah. Other blockages are energetic, right? So like, I just got an email like 2 days ago from somebody who she was like, I just feel like I can't have a second child. She was secondary infertility. I just feel like I can't have a second child. I don't know what it is. We're trying. It's not happening. And we did a past life regression where I don't want to say her whole regression because it's confidential, but there was an issue there around having, some guilt around having a second child. So we did this past life regression. This was last like June or something. And she just sent me a picture of her newborn baby. So can I explain it? No, I can't. All I know is that it sometimes is effective. Sometimes. Wow. And it's all anecdotal at this point, right? I've not done research. I've not done any of that, but those are a couple of examples for you.
When it starts to happen so many times, it's like, okay, it can't just be a coincidence every time.
Yeah. Or it could. I don't know. Not afraid to say I don't know.
I'm like, no, it was not a coincidence. Right. I'll say it.
Okay,
you think that after 2 years, I think you have enough evidence that you've lined up that at least in your own mind, it sounds certainly that you are convinced that this is a legit gift that you have, and I think that's wonderful. It's certainly not anything that I would ever think of doing, but what we learned during the show is that everyone has their own path, and they're here to do their own specific mission. And it sounds like this is firmly on your lap as your life mission, and that is beautiful. It really is.
Well, she can't disappoint her grandmother.
No, let's not do that.
Living in feisty.
No, she'll rain the Catholic guilt on me. No, I don't know. But yeah, thanks. I'm still pretty astounded on the daily that this is a thing, that it's possible, that it's happening, that people get something out of it. So yeah, I'm just grateful.
Right.
And one thing that I tend to always ask, if you're channeling and you're communicating, do you ever get any creepy beings out there that come in?
Ooh, that is one of my favorite questions. Yeah, that is one of my very favorite questions. And I'll tell you why. Because, yeah.
Pat myself on the back now. Woohoo!
You guys are collectively brilliant. I'm just saying.
And she knows things well.
This is what I do. I drink from an owl cup and I know things.
Perfect.
Well, I'll match your owl cup with a Skeptic Metaphysician's mug.
I got nothing. Got an empty cup.
Okay, this is why I am suggesting that spirit babies reside in a different sort of realm as other energies, because when I am connected to spirit baby realm, it is love, it is light, it's playfulness, it is like rainbows and unicorns all the time. Yeah. Now, do creepy folks attempt to come in? Of course, totally. And right. So I create an intention. I say only benign souls allowed into this process. P.S. Only souls during a session, I invite in ancestors, guides, angels, that kind of thing. But I am very specific. Only benign souls are allowed here, and only souls that are connected to this baby in some way. I once had a client that her dad had recently passed away, but because I was so clear No souls allowed that are not connected to this baby. And he was not connected to this baby. He was communicating to the soul, like an angel or a guide that had come through that was connected to this baby. He kept talking to this guide or this angel. And I'm like, okay, I just had to tell you, this guide is telling me about a man with a mustache who loves cars. And she's like, that's my dad. I'm like, okay, he's asking your permission to come through. So we started talking to dad because the client allowed it, right? But if there's any creepy vibe, it's just not allowed because there's an energetic block for
And
that.
that's enough? Just saying that or just,
Yes.
making that rule? Wow. Well, at least they
Yes.
respect the rules.
Yeah, because it's like, hey, can like bad people stay away? No, it's like you are not allowed. You're not allowed here. It's not okay.
A question that occurred to me a while back, and I just haven't found the right time to ask it. Is it something that, because the twins, when you're talking about early on, were just coming at you, and then the 7 years afterwards,
Yeah.
these babies were coming at you all the time.
All souls, all souls.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
These souls are coming to you unbidden, or is it something where you're sitting with the client or with someone and you say, I'm intentionally going to reach out to this particular soul, and the soul comes through?
Both. Yeah, both
Okay.
happens.
Has there ever been a time when you sat down and you say, I'm gonna bring the soul forth, and the baby says, nope, I'm not coming?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's when I ask my spirit baby to assist. They can still say no. Sometimes this has not happened yet to me as a spirit baby medium, but I know it's coming, that I will sit with a client and no baby is there. No baby. And so I know that's coming. And then I know to offer to call one in because there are plenty of souls out there who are just they haven't chosen their families yet. So we can there's a book by Walter McKitchen called Spirit Babies, classic now in the spirit baby realm, now classic. There are lots of chants in there, lots of things to utilize to call in a spirit baby. And so I'll ask the client, I am happy to issue you a refund. It is totally fine. I don't want to take more of your time if you don't want to do this work. And I'm also happy to attempt to help you call in a spirit baby, completely your choice. What would you like to do? So if that, and I know not if, when that happens, that will be what I do.
Now, have you ever been in communication with someone, or you're talking to a family just in passing, and all of a sudden someone comes through and says, hey, I belong to this family and I want to get the message across? Someone that's not actively sought your help.
Do you mean if I'm like at the grocery store and
I was just going to say at the grocery store.
Looks like someone else is psychic too.
In the past that used to happen a lot. And I am not like the Long Island medium. I do not walk up to somebody and be like, all right, let me just talk to you about this guy who's on the other side. And this is what he has to say. I just don't do that. I find, okay, so this might be my clinical mental health background. I do not enter somebody's space without their permission. I just don't. So if there's a really strong soul that is coming through to me at the grocery store, they've passed my energetic block, which doesn't happen much anymore, but let's say they do, I tell them to move on. I don't know that person. They have not given me permission to give them this information. You will find a way. And they do, usually.
Well, this has been fascinating. It was so much more so than I ever had hoped. This is
so glad.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you want to make sure that our audience really gets from you?
I guess the one thing that I would say is that just like all professionals that you go to seek help from, you are in control at all times. If you ever say, I'm out, never mind, I'm done, that professional should absolutely okay that, issue you a refund, and be on your way. This is meant to be a safe, loving experience. And if it doesn't ever feel that way, then say goodbye. Say goodbye.
Wow, that's great. Well, your podcast is Miracles Happen Fertility Podcast, and your book is Transcending Infertility, 9 Keys for Improving Fertility, Creating Miracles, and Being a Better Human. We're going to put direct links to all of that in our show notes. So if you are interested in listening to her show or reading her book, you can just go to skepticmetaphysician.com, go to her episode page and click on the link. It's a one-stop shop for all things Dr. Maria. If someone wanted to reach out to you, Doc, what's the best way to do that?
Oh, you can direct email me, info@drmariarothenberger.com, or my website, drmariarothenberger.com. You can visit me on social media. I do not answer messages on social media, heads up. So you can take a look at what I have on there. They're all free resources for you, but probably a direct email would be the best way.
Okay. And we'll certainly add direct links to those as well so that you have a one-stop place to find, like I said, all things Dr. Maria. Doc, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your expertise with us.
This has been
Sure
so
thing.
interesting. Oh my gosh, and such a great conversation.
Mhm.
Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate you.
And thanks for coming along on this journey of discovery. We'd love to continue our conversation with you on our website or on Facebook and Instagram under @Skeptic Metaphysician or at skepticmetaphysician.com. And if you're listening to this on the radio and missed anything, not to worry. All of our shows, including this one, can be found there as well. I hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as we have. That's all for now. We'll see you on the next episode of The Skeptic Metaphysicians. Until then, take care.